I walked into their home thinking love would be enough. But no one told me I'd have to earn the right to exist in it. Not because I didn't love them, but because I loved them too much. More than was wise, more than was safe. And sometimes I think, more than they ever wanted me to. I didn't walk in with a plan. There was no script. Just a house that wasn't mine. A child whose eyes didn't light up for me. And a man who loved both of us in different ways. But maybe not enough to bridge the space between. You think you're stepping into someone's life. But the truth is you're stepping into a life that already had a rhythm, a pattern, a set of rules etched in memory before you even knew their names. You're not an addition. You're an interruption. No one says it like that, but you feel it. In the silences. In the sideways glances. In the way your mug is always the one out of place in the kitchen cabinet. They say love is patient. But no one tells you how long you might have to wait before a child even looks you in the eyes. Without flinching like you're stealing something that belonged to someone else. I tried. God, I tried in ways I didn't know I could. Birthday cakes with names I hadn't earned the right to sing. School pickups where I stood back, letting the real mother's shadow arrive first. Even when she didn't show up at all. I learned to tie shoes with hands that were never allowed to hold. I packed lunches with notes he never read. I clapped at recitals from the back row. Always the back row. Because that's where you sit when your love doesn't have a title. People look at you like you should be grateful. Grateful to be allowed into their story. But they never see the ways your heart is scraped raw. On the edges of every photo you're asked to step out of. Every mom and me moment that erases you in ink and memory. You become the ghost in your own house. There, but not. And still, I stayed. I stayed when he screamed. I wish my real mom was here. And I didn't scream back. I do too, because maybe then I wouldn't have to bleed in silence like this. I stayed when he refused to eat what I cooked, as if the meal itself betrayed his mother's memory. I stayed when he scribbled out my name on the Mother's Day card the teacher made him write. I stayed when he didn't ask me to tuck him in. And again, when he did one night and then never again. There is a kind of grief in loving a child who doesn't love you back. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's just always there. Like a door that never fully closes. A name you're never quite allowed to say out loud. People ask why I don't have kids of my own. As if that would make this easier. As if being a real mom would validate me. But they don't understand. I am a real mom. Not because he calls me that. He doesn't. Not because I gave birth to him. I didn't. But because I chose him. Again and again and again. In the silence, in the rejection, in the mess of it all. He was 4 when I met him. He clung to his father's leg like a lifeline. I tried to smile, not too wide, not to scare him. He looked at me like I was just another woman who'd leave. And the thing is, I almost did. Because I wasn't prepared to be a stranger in my own home. Wasn't prepared for the cold mornings where he'd walk past me and ask his dad to help with his jacket, even though I was right there. I learned to fold his clothes without leaving my scent on them. Learned to wait outside the pediatrician's office, because only mom was allowed in. I learned to love from the sidelines, like a coach who doesn't get the trophy, but loses sleep over every game. There were nights I stared at the ceiling and wondered who I was becoming. A woman with love that had no place to land. A voice that was careful, measured. Never too motherly, never too cold. Because everything I said was filtered through comparison. She doesn't cut the crust off like my mom did. She doesn't know the song I like. She doesn't do it right. And I wanted to scream. I'm not trying to be her. I'm just trying to love you the only way I know how. But love isn't always enough. Not the quiet kind. Not the kind that tucks you in with a whisper you'll never hear. Not the kind that makes pancakes shaped like dinosaurs you pretend not to like. Not the kind that waits outside the school play. Because they only had 2 tickets. And she already gave them to her parents. You start to lose yourself. Not all at once. Just in pieces. The first time he calls her mommy with a laugh you've never heard. The first time he draws a family picture and you're not in it. The first time your friends stop asking how it's going. Because the answer is always complicated. I kept loving anyway. Through scraped knees and silent dinners, through forgotten thank yous and forced holiday smiles. I loved him when he was sick and only wanted his dad. I loved him when he rolled his eyes at me like I was nothing. I loved him when he finally let me read him a bedtime story. And then asked where his mom was. Do you know what it's like? To pour your soul into someone who doesn't know your name when he dreams. I do. And still, I never left. Even when my heart wanted to. Even when I packed a bag once, just one bag, and sat in the car with the engine on, wondering if disappearing would make anything easier. But then I thought of his tiny sneakers at the front door, the ones I bought when no one else remembered he'd grown. And I turned the engine off. Because sometimes, love is the decision not to leave. Even when you're invisible. There are no medals for this. No best stepmom card sold at the store. No recognition in the school drop-off line. No name on the emergency contact list. No title on the family tree. But I've learned something. Love that is unseen is not love that is wasted. Love that is unthanked is not love that is unlived. Love that stays, even when it's not invited, is the bravest kind of all. He's older now, taller, quieter, and sometimes he forgets I'm not his mom. Sometimes he says thanks in that careless teenage way, like it doesn't matter. But I hear it, because it does. And sometimes, when no one's looking, he calls me by my first name, but softer. Like maybe, just maybe, it carries more than he's willing to admit. And that is enough. But still, there are days I wish I had never entered that family, because it broke me in places I didn't know could crack. It stripped me bare, asked me to bleed without making a sound, to give without ever being known. And yet, I did. I still do. Because maybe, being a mother isn't about blood. Maybe it's about a heart brave enough to love, without needing to be loved back. And maybe that's the quiet truth of stepmotherhood. You don't arrive with history. You don't come with baby pictures, or ultrasound frames, or stories of first steps that you witnessed. You come in with open arms, and you wait. You wait to be trusted. You wait to be seen. You wait for a child to decide whether you're safe enough to let into their fortress of grief and loyalty and confusion. Because that's what no one tells you. Every stepchild is grieving something. Even if the biological mother is still alive, still near, there's a fracture there. A sense of loss or betrayal or division. They don't have the words to name. And when you arrive, you become the face of that fracture, even if you never asked to be. So you smile softer. You love Keter. You shrink yourself into corners that don't upset the balance. You walk on eggshells until your feet bleed. And you convince yourself that the silence is better than the storm. But there are moments I remember like scenes burned onto old film, where I saw something flicker in his eyes. The first time he asked me if I was coming to his school play without anyone prompting him. The first time he handed me a drawing and said, "This is our house, not his house, not Dad's house, our house." I don't think he knew what he gave me that day. How 3 little letters could wrap around my chest. Like a heartbeat I didn't know I'd been waiting for. But the thing is, you don't stay for those moments. Because if you did, you'd break before they ever came. You stay because something in you refuses to leave. Even when no one's asking you to stay. Even when you're not wanted. Even when you're tolerated at best. And that is the kind of love no child will ever remember with words. But maybe, one day, they'll feel it in the way they love others. Quietly, fiercely, without condition. I remember one night. He was maybe 7. He had a fever, and his dad was out of town. I sat by his bed, pressing a cold cloth to his forehead, reading a story I knew he didn't care about, just to fill the room with something gentle. And in the haze of half-sleep, he whispered, "Mom?" My breath caught. Not because I believed it was for me, but because, for 1 second, the wall dropped, and I got to feel what it might be like to be the one he reached for in the dark. But then his eyes opened, and he looked at me, really looked, and his face changed. He didn't say anything, just turned away, and I went back to reading, my voice trembling on the edges of each word. I never brought it up again, and neither did he, because sometimes the most beautiful moments are also the most painful. I know I'll never be his mother, and maybe that's not the point. Maybe love doesn't need to be labeled, to be real. Maybe it's enough to be the steady presence, the one who shows up, who folds the laundry, who remembers his dentist appointments, who stays up until he gets home from his first party, pretending to be asleep on the couch, so he doesn't feel watched, but still knows he's not alone. Maybe it's enough to love, with no expectation of return. Maybe it's enough to have shaped a life quietly, from behind the curtain. Sometimes, when no one's around, I look at the photos on the fridge. There's one from the beach. His dad is holding him on his shoulders, laughing so wide you can hear it through the image. I took that photo. I'm not in it, but I was there. I was the one who packed the snacks, who carried the towels, who applied sunscreen 3 times, because his skin burns fast. I was the one who sat on the edge of the water, watching them build sandcastles, my heart aching with joy and distance. All at once. No one sees those moments. They're not recorded. They're not remembered. But they're mine. And they matter. They matter because they were real. Because I lived them. Because I gave a piece of myself, without needing to be in the frame. That is stepmotherhood. It is the art of presence without possession, of love without demand, of giving without keeping score. Sometimes I wonder if he'll ever know, if one day he'll sit with his own child and think, she reminds me of someone. If he'll hear himself say something kind, something steady, and wonder where he learned that tone. If he'll hold his partner when the world is heavy and remember how I used to hold space in silence, never asking him to feel anything more than he could. If he'll ever stop and think, she was there, she mattered, even if I never said it out loud. But maybe that's asking too much. Maybe it's enough that I know. Maybe it's enough that I loved him, in all the ways I knew how. Imperfectly, invisibly, but entirely. And yet, there are still nights I lie awake and ask myself the question I never say out loud. Did I do the right thing? Did I choose a life where I would always come second? Where I would always love more than I'd be loved? Where my name would never be written in the official places, never be spoken in the family toast, never be honored at the wedding speech? Did I choose to live in a shadow and call it home? And still, even after everything, I don't regret loving him. I just wish loving him didn't cost me so much of myself. There are pieces of me that I can never get back. Dreams I softened, parts I buried, words I swallowed so he could breathe easier. And no one will ever say thank you for that. No one should. That's not what love is. But I will say it to myself. Because I stayed. Because I didn't run. Because I built a love so quiet, it echoed louder than words ever could. So yes, I am a stepmother. And there are days I wish I had never entered that family. But I did. And maybe I was never meant to be remembered in headlines, or photo albums, or etched on paper hearts in school crafts. Maybe I was just meant to be the steady hum in the background, the heartbeat behind the story, the heartbeat behind the story, and Ara comes, Teddy, the invisible string that held it all together. And if that's all I ever get to be, then maybe that's more than enough. He's older now, not a child, not quite a man. And there's a space between us that wasn't always there. Not rejection, not resentment, just distance. The kind life builds when no one's paying attention. He doesn't need me the way he used to. Or maybe he never really did. Maybe I just needed to be needed. Some days, I move through this house, like a visitor in my own life. The photos on the wall trace memories I helped create, but I'm not in any of them. Not by accident, but by silent agreement. You don't take center stage when you're not meant to be part of the play. You hold the lights. You keep the doors open. You make sure the show runs smoothly, but you never step into the spotlight. And yet, even knowing all of that, I'd do it again. Even knowing what it costs. Even knowing it breaks you. Quietly, softly, in ways that can't be stitched back together. Because love, real love, isn't about being seen. It's about seeing. About holding space for someone else's becoming without needing them to call it by name. There was a night. He was maybe 13, and I found him crying on the back porch. It was late. His father was asleep. His mom had forgotten something, again. He didn't say much. Just sat there, head in his hands. The weight of disappointment a little too heavy for his small shoulders. I didn't try to fix it. Didn't tell him to stop crying. Didn't say, "She still loves you," because I didn't know if that was true. I just sat beside him. Said nothing. Let the silence do what words never could. And for a moment, a brief, flickering moment, he leaned into me. Just a little. Not quite a hug, not quite an accident. It was the most honest thing he'd ever given me. And it was enough. He'll never remember it. But I do. I carry it with me like a pressed flower. Fragile, beautiful, and already fading. That's the nature of this kind of love. You collect moments that no one else remembers. You hold memories that never get spoken aloud. You build a mosaic of invisible tenderness, and then you live inside it. There are days I still ache. When I see mothers and sons laughing at coffee shops, sharing inside jokes that were born in car rides I never took. When I hear other women complain about how clingy their kids are, and I smile. But inside, I'm wondering what it feels like to be clung to. What it feels like to be the first choice. The default. The safe place. Because I've only ever been the second landing. The soft fallback. The good enough when everything else fell apart. And still, even now, I find myself whispering goodnight through closed doors, out of habit. Even though he doesn't need me to. Even though he probably never hears it. It's strange how motherhood without motherhood can still shape you. How you start to fold towels the way he likes. How you remember which toothpaste he prefers. How your heart skips when you hear a cough in the middle of the night. Because even now, you're ready. Ready to be there. Even if he doesn't ask. That's what no one tells you about stepmothers. The good ones. The broken-hearted warriors. The women who loved where love wasn't easy. We are always ready. Ready to catch. To soothe. To disappear if that's what's needed. To be the soft place. Even when we're made of nothing but sharp edges. I've stopped hoping he'll call me mom. That was never the point anyway. But I do hope. Quietly, selfishly. That one day, when he's grown, when he has his own battles, his own children, his own sleepless nights, he'll remember me. Not as the woman who tried to take someone's place, but as the woman who never asked for one. The woman who stayed, who loved in the gaps, who showed up, always. Even when it hurt, especially when it hurt. Maybe he'll remember the way I folded his favorite hoodie and left it on the stairs. The way I never forgot his birthday. The way I stood in the pouring rain at his football game, cheering louder than anyone, even though he never looked at me in the stands. Maybe he'll remember the quiet love, the background music, the steady heartbeat of a woman who wasn't his mother, but loved him like he was the only thing that ever made sense. And if he doesn't, if he never does, that's okay too. Because not all love is meant to be remembered. Some love is meant to be lived. And I lived it fully. No audience, no spotlight, no applause, just the sacred, invisible act of choosing someone else's child and calling them home. So yes, I am a stepmother. And there are days I wish I had never entered that family. Because it was the hardest thing I've ever done. But it was also the bravest, because it taught me that love, real, soul-splitting love, doesn't always come with a name. Sometimes it just comes with a choice. And I chose him. Again. And again. And again. Even when he didn't choose me back. Even when no one noticed. Even now. Especially now. Because maybe, just maybe, being a mother isn't about blood. Maybe it's about a heart brave enough to love, without needing to be loved back. And if that's true, then I was a mother all along.